Hey, my name's Jared Moon, and I'm part of a group of underground athletes you've probably never even heard of before. Most of us don't even have gym memberships. We don't have every piece of equipment known to man, nor do we have a ton of time to train. And we don't need it because we're achieving amazing things without it. We are garage gym athletes, and these are our stories. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Jared Moon here, and welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. With me is Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Happy June.
Happy June it is, man. How is life?
Good. Weather is getting, very peak San Diego right now, so that's amazing, which is being sunny and nice.
So just perfect. It's getting closer to perfect.
Pretty much, sunny and 70. It's cloudy in the morning, but that's just, normal San Diego.
That's awesome, man. It's getting just hot and humid here.
Just pretty peak oven temperatures.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I bought a thermometer. I know you can just check the weather, but I bought a thermometer that goes on the whiteboard in my garage. It's magnetic. So I just got it. I planted it in there, and I want to see how hot my garage actually gets. Because
that would be very demotivational.
Well, so I have a 3-car tandem garage. So it's like a 2-car garage with that, you've been there, that one space that goes backwards, goes back to make it the 3-car space.
Yeah, double long.
Yeah, so but there's no airflow in the back. There's no door, there's no window, and that's where all my training equipment is. And I have a feeling, just from having trained back in that little corner for a while now, it gets a little bit hotter than the temperature outside. I think it cooks a little similar to an oven back there. So I want to see, mainly just for safety and curiosity reasons, what it actually gets to. So
I think you just need to cut a hole in the wall because that wall goes straight outside. So you just need to blast a hole right there.
I know,
for some airflow.
Knock out some bricks, put in a door.
Yeah,
problem
big deal.
solved. All right, man. Well, let's get into some of the stuff. A few things. First, the barbell giveaway is still going on. It's going to be going on for a few weeks. I don't think I updated everybody on that, so it is going to be going on for a few weeks, and we will announce the winner on the podcast. You have to listen to get it, and we will read your review, and we've been reading them. We've already seen a bunch of them come in. Thank you so much for everyone who's left, a really positive review. It's really awesome to see that and really keeps us going, so I appreciate that. You still have a chance to get in on this barbell giveaway. If you missed it and you want to know what the rules, regulations, all that, pretty simple. Go to iTunes or wherever you are listening to the podcast, leave a 5-star review and a positive comment if you are so inclined. Okay, I like to really point this out. If I am just encouraging you to do something you already wanted to do, if you don't like the podcast, don't worry about it. Don't leave a review. We'll have another barbell giveaway some other time. If you do love the podcast, let us know why in your comment, and then also leave that 5-star review. It really helps the show get spread around to more people, and we would love for that to happen. And we'd love to send you a barbell. We've sent, if you had to estimate, how many barbells have you sent specifically? I've probably sent a lot more on my own before you were sending them.
I think I've sent 4.
4. I've probably sent at least double that. So that's good. Up to around a dozen barbells given away.
And it's a Rogue 2.0 bar too, by the way, not just a generic barbell.
And I also want people to know, just because I think it's cool, one, we don't have any sponsors on the podcast. We are sponsored by Blueberries right now and for the foreseeable future. At the same note, so it is a Rogue barbell, but we choose Rogue because I have a lot of Rogue equipment. I like it. Joe has some Rogue equipment. He likes it. But Rogue is not even partnered with us on the giveaway. Like a lot of people and companies do that. They're like, yeah, let's partner. You give the barbell away for free. I'll push people your way. But no, we're not even doing that. We just straight up buy the barbell and send it to you. That's how we do the giveaways, where we are not held to anybody, like you scratch my back, I scratch your back type situation. Not a fan of that. So yeah, we just buy the barbell, shoot it your way, get a part of it, be a part of it by leaving those reviews and comments and everything. All right, next, dude, countdown is here. I'm officially counting down the days. So if you are one of our athletes, Fit Week comes up in 12 days from the day this podcast is published. A lot of P's in that sentence. So 12 days until Fit Week starts. If you are one of our athletes or you're thinking about doing it, Fit Week is when we do a week's worth of testing. So we'll be testing a lot of different benchmarks, finding out where you stand. We have like calculators to calculate your fit score and, send you free shirts if you're hitting PRs. Fit Week is really awesome. I also sometimes call it PR Week because our athletes hit so many PRs posted in the group. We're sending out free shirts like crazy. It's a really awesome thing to be a part of. So Fit Week, 12 days away, which means the new cycle is 20 days away. Man, I'm excited. You ready for the new cycle?
Oh, yeah.
So which are you going to... Hard to kill forever? Hard to kill for life?
Yeah, I think I've never changed yet, or have yet to change from harder to kill. I'm just going to set the high bar, set the record for time on hard to kill.
I think even with the cycle off, you won't beat me. If I go back to hard to kill right now, like after this cycle, I think I might still hold the record. But yeah, so you're going to stay on it. I'd probably switching back. I'm kind of torn. But yeah. New cycle, not far away. All right, man, lay it on me. Updates from this past week, what happened in training and life and everything else.
So I had a mysterious bad recovery day this past Friday. And so I woke up, generally, so this is going off my Whoop recovery. Generally, most days I'm in the yellow or green. I'm almost never in the red unless I've had like a night of drinking, take a red eye, something extreme like that. But I woke up and I was at red at 29%, and I had no idea why. Training the day before I squatted, but I wasn't sore. It didn't hurt for me to go sit on the toilet or anything like that any of those days. Nutrition was the same as always. And even the craziest part is that looking at the recovery, my heart rate variability might have been low, but my resting heart rate was very low, which is good. It's the lowest that it ever is for as far as the Whoop says. So I was kind of dumbfounded by why my recovery was so bad. Well, later on in the day, I was finding myself super thirsty, and I realized, and I thought back like the middle of the night. I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't get up at all in the middle of the night to pee, and I only get up 2 to 3 times. So I realized that my recovery was directly correlated to my hydration. And I thought, okay, the day before I was basically outside taking pictures all day, and I forgot my water bottle. I just didn't think about it. So kind of an interesting thing there, to where every single normal factor in my life was normal, except I left out water and my recovery was in the tank.
But what factor was making the recovery low? You said resting heart rate was normal. It was just heart rate variability was a little bit jacked up.
I think heart rate variability was just lower. And I think it was really low because of that fact. I'll have to go back in my Whoop, but.
Well, it's interesting. You should bring that up, man. But I have the Whoop back on right now. I'm not wearing it 24/7, but I am using it to track sleep. But that's interesting. I think super low. So heart rate variability was super low, but sleep.
Heart rate variability, it was just weird that my resting heart rate was also really low, though, like in a good way. That's
interesting, man. And heart rate variability can be, I don't know, sometimes I feel like it can just be fluke, so maybe it's a fluke, or maybe it is hydration. But if it's like super low, then that's probably an indicator. I've noticed that hydration is a huge factor, but also waking up 2 to 3 times a night to pee seems like a lot, man. You might be drinking too much water. I don't know.
It's usually like 2, 3 is excessive, but but as long as I go like right before and then like right when I wake up. But I don't know. It just depends.
Got it, man. Anything else going on this week?
I think I've discovered a secret to productivity, and that's waking up an hour early, and on accident, though. I want to hear about it. I don't know if it's because of like the sun's rising earlier, or like I've still gone about 6 or so weeks without any alcohol and like super clean diet and training and everything. So like everything is on point, and my rest has been like 2 hours of deep sleep and an hour and a half of REM sleep, and so like I'm sleeping deep and I'm hitting those numbers, just not as long. Like my body just wakes up an hour early thinking, okay, you're good. And it's weird, but
I mean, the healthier you are, the less sleep you truly need. Not to a lower limit. Like if you're unhealthy, you probably need like 9 hours of sleep. In all honesty, if you are really healthy, maybe you get away with 6.5 to 7 hours. But But dude, waking up an hour early has been my mantra for like, I don't know, 3-4 years. I really do think I agree with you. That's the secret to productivity. Doing my morning routine is really helpful for me being more productive and getting stuff done. I do think you being off alcohol is way more of a factor than most people would realize. I think no alcohol at all, complete abstinence, like none of it is, your body's like, you're getting into the peak mode. You're getting into like peak performance, peak mental acuity, everything, because you're just not allowing any of that shit to come in contact with you.
Yeah, and I guess it started about around the 4-week mark. To when I started just waking up earlier, more natural. It's probably just because there's less inflammation in my body, less junk in my body, so my body's recovers a lot faster, and it's just, all right, you're good. You don't need to be in bed anymore.
Yeah, man, I think that's awesome. I do notice. I feel like I operate in a pretty, for the same reason, because I've done that stuff for a while. I think I operate in a pretty like peak state a lot of the times. Now I just notice if I'm like the slightest bit off, and it annoys the shit out of me. If like I didn't get enough sleep, or I ate something like that wasn't great, and I just notice the next day that my mind is not firing as fast as it should be, and I don't like not being at my highest level, if you will. But dude, update for me, talking about wearing the Whoop. So I threw the Whoop back on about a week ago, only for nighttime. Whoop actually recommends this. And again, guys, we're not sponsored by, I'm about to mention 2 products. We're not sponsored by either one of them. Buy one, don't buy one. I could care less. These are just some tools that we're using. So Whoop, I threw it back on because I have like 2 years worth of data in Whoop. So I really have a lot to go look back on as far as heart rate variability, sleep averages, resting heart rate. And the reason I got it back out is I'm only wearing it when I go to sleep to track my sleep and see, I wake up, I still get a recovery score. I'm just not wearing it throughout the day to track every minute of the day. So still using it for a lot of that beneficial, like how recovered am I? But I mentioned it, I'm pretty sure it was in the last podcast. The chili pad. Dude, the chili pad came in. So the chili pad goes under your sheets, and it can keep your bed really cold or really hot. I set that sucker at 55 degrees, the lowest setting it can possibly go, and just let it run the last couple nights. And my recovery has been awesome. Like, wow. Absolutely awesome. I'm talking like 20-30% bump in heart rate variability, like maybe even 35-40% one day. Heart rate variability, resting heart rate significantly lower than previous. But what's crazy is my sleep hasn't been amazing. I'm talking probably, I got like, maybe just over 7 hours of sleep a few nights, and then under 6 one night, just under 7, like high 6s, which is all that's good for me. I prefer somewhere in the 7s. But even with like a sleep, they base it off of how much sleep you need versus how much you got. And so they told me I needed like 8 hours and 30 minutes of sleep, and I got like 6 hours and 40 minutes of sleep. And this is primarily due to children waking up in the middle of the night. And I still had it was like 87% recovery because I had such high heart rate variability and really low resting heart rate, down into the 40s, and yeah, decent sleep. So I don't know, man, there's not enough data yet. Like I said, I have 2 years worth of just straight recovery data, but looking at the initial 2 or 3 nights here at the chili pad, it seems like it might be a game changer. And I'm not saying you need to go buy a chili pad, but everyone, I think, I focus on almost every aspect of my sleep and recovery. The only thing I've never really paid that much attention to is my actual like body temperature, room temperature. I've always felt that my room is kind of cool enough, but maybe it's not. Maybe my body likes to sleep in the coldest possible temperature. Now, anyone concerned or like about the chili pad, if you're thinking about get one, what's it like? I have a very simple way of explaining it. It's not like this ice pad like you're putting under your sheets and you're just like laying on this like super cold thing. It's more like maybe in the winter time, if you like were laying in one spot of your bed, you'd be warm, and then if you moved over to another side of this spot of the bed, it'd be like cold,
Yeah, the cool side of the pillow.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but like all night. So like if you stay in one spot, like I run really hot. My body's always like super hot. So I think I warm up where I'm at to where there's no uncomfortable or discomfort in the cold. But then if I just like roll over or move, it's really cold on that side where I haven't been touching, and it's just like that all night. So it's not, and I am sleeping a good, like straight through, not moving around that much. So I don't know how much effect it has when I'm just laying there and it's cooling me down. But that's kind of, it's not this overwhelming, like, oh shit, that's cold. It's just like, it's a cooling effect throughout the entire night. You never run out of a cool spot on the bed. Like when you flip that pillow over and it's like the cold goes away in 2 seconds, you basically get to experience that all night with a chili pad. And again, not plugging the product, just to letting you know something I'm using. No affiliation with the company whatsoever, but so far, so good.
That's pretty awesome. I might have to look into that. I wonder if you're getting more deep sleep. That's why.
Oh, yeah. So that's another thing. So I'm getting a lot more deep sleep. I'm getting a lot more deep sleep according to the Whoop. So that was the other factor that I was looking at. And the reason I put the Whoop back on is because I wanted to compare all these data. Because I could wake up in the morning and be like, I feel pretty good. But that could become like 100% placebo. I don't even know if I'd report that here in the podcast. But the fact that I have 2 years worth of data and everything the last couple of nights has been trending positively, yeah, I'm gonna say that, hey, maybe focusing on your sleep temperature is a pretty big deal. Your room temperature, whatever. And if I didn't have 3 little kids, I would probably just crank down my AC instead of buy a chili pad. Just saying. So you could do that. All right. You ready to get into study this week, man?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So we're going to be talking about periodization. The actual study is called Comparison of Periodized and Non-Periodized Resistance Training on Maximal Strength, a Meta-Analysis. And what we're trying to find out here in this study is, does periodization really lead to faster strength gains? Is that the best way to do it? Now, periodization is defined as a logical method of organizing training into sequential phases and cyclical time periods in order to increase the potential for achieving specific performance goals while minimizing the potential for overtraining. So that is periodization. So programming is really just organizing your training. That could be in any real capacity that you want. Periodization is a more methodical approach to it. So, for example, if you simply did 5 sets of 5 reps on the bench press twice per week, just adding weight as you were able, your program would be non-periodized. So just like that's non-periodized training, because volume, relative intensity, and frequency would be unchanged every week. However, if you did 5 sets of 8 reps on week 1 with 70% of your 1 rep max, 5 sets of 5 reps on week 2 with 75% of your 1 rep max, 5 sets of 3 reps on week 3 with 80% of your 1 rep max, so on and so forth, that would be periodized program as volume and relative intensity did change over time. Do you have any questions about the definitions or differences between non-periodized and periodization training?
No questions. Just double tap that. Non-periodized is you're only changing one thing, and periodized you're changing multiple things or more than one. So whether it be sets, reps, things like that.
Yeah, and
just to break it easier.
And the easiest thing, like, way for people to kind of look into this is linear periodization is probably the easiest concept for most everyone to get in programming. In fact, when we program and we don't use linear periodization, people think that we are doing something random, because really the only truly and easily recognizable form of programming is linear periodization, which is kind of the example I just gave, where you're like, okay, I'm going to keep the sets the same. I'm going to decrease reps each week, but increase intensity, so percentage of my 1 rep max. It's very easy to recognize that pattern. When you get away from that to more undulating periodization, things like that, it gets a little bit more confusing. People can't recognize it as much, and it's a little bit more of an advanced programming technique. But the real question is here, does any of it matter? Like, how should you do it? And I think if you're doing non-periodized training, man, I'm going to mess up that word like 1,000 times. I would say that that's pretty basic. Like you should probably, hop into a strength program somewhere. But we're going to talk about a lot of that stuff, and kind of my take on it. So the first thing I want to talk about. So this is a meta-analysis. This is not a specific study where it's like, hey, we went and grabbed 10 guys and we had the guys do non-periodized and periodized training and we hear their results. A meta-analysis is where they look at a bunch of different studies that have been done. They have their own parameters and they draw conclusions based off of a lot of different studies. And if you're not familiar with the meta-analysis, this is by far the most popular thing that you see, like news headlines and all that stuff. It's like, oh, a new study on 6 billion people who eat fish live longer. They didn't go get 6 billion people, and obviously that's, I'm exaggerating, but there are studies like that. They're like, oh, based off of 1 million people eat vegetables, something like that. You hear these things and you're like, how do you get 1 million people into a study? You don't. You do a meta-analysis in which you take different variables from different studies, and it's not necessarily cherry-picking in a bad way. Like, they still have to be very scientific about these things, but there is instances where meta-analysis is not dependent on, the author bias. A lot of other things you do have to factor in, and that's just more for everyone's situational awareness who's reading studies. If you become upon a meta-analysis of something that's going to make you make big decisions on your health or fitness, make sure that you read into how the study was done. Say it was for a diet, like was this person vegetarian biased, trying to find out a specific answer for their diet? Was this person paleo biased, so on and so forth. So you really have to look at those things, but they can still publish it as a legit study because they still have to take the scientific method into approach, and most of them are peer reviewed and all these other things. So cool. All right. So we got that out of the way. Let's talk a little bit about it. So I won't be talking about the necessary parameters for that reason, is because it's more of just like, we looked at a bunch of different studies and the results. If you had to guess, man, you think periodization works?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it definitely is very, very beneficial to do periodized training. That is the end result. Let me see here. I'll just give you the main takeaway, then I want to hop over to some points. But basically, periodized training leads to strength gains that are modestly but consistently larger than non-periodized training. So, boom, you should be doing it. And if you want to focus on how you can manipulate volume, intensity, and frequency to solve problems to reach specific goals. So you really need to think about why you're training and, how is it going to help you? Like, should you be doing, like, do you care? Do you care about working some sort of linear progression, or are you okay with just getting some practice of lifting in here and there? But a couple other things is, a lot of people say periodization works like really well for beginner athletes simply from motor skill acquisition. So practice, like you're just, hey, I had you do 3 weeks, a 3-week wave of barbell squats. You can now do the squat a little bit better so you lift more weight. That is a theory for a lot of, I'd say novice beginner athletes. But I've seen linear periodization work. I specifically use linear periodization, 1 man, 1 barbell for 8 months straight, just back to back. So if you're not familiar, 1 man, 1 barbell is 4-week cycles. It's just like, kind of like Garage Gym Athlete. We do 3-week waves and then 1 week deload. And I got my deadlift all the way up to triple body weight, which is 540 pounds at that time, which is triple body weight deadlift is pretty significant for just following linear periodization for 8 months. That's pretty significant. So I think it can take you, and a triple body weight deadlift is well beyond an intermediate or beginner. It's way more in the advanced category, because even the world's strongest men aren't doing typically 3 times their body weight. They might be deadlifting 1,100 pounds, but it might not be 3 times their body weight. If that makes sense.
They're giants.
Because they're huge. They're massive human beings. So it is more of an advanced technique, and can take you a lot further, just from personal experience and what I've seen with coaching myself. But one thing I want to point out is another study says over 3 and 6 months, the periodized training groups gained significantly more strength on the bench press, shoulder press, but there weren't significant between differences in strength and gains after 9 months. So there is a certain point where it's no longer going to be effective. And I think that's the main, like, if I had to take one negative thing away from periodization, especially just straight linear periodization, it's really great for getting you strong. And like all the studies say it, like the follow-up studies and other contrasting studies, if you need to get strong in 12 weeks, you should be doing periodized training, probably for 12 weeks, and really organize your training in semi-format of the example I gave at the beginning of the podcast. But that is the quickest way to gain strength quickly. And then if you want to move to undulating or, straight non-periodized training, you can. But if you want to get strong quickly, 12 weeks, 24 weeks, you can do that. But when you start looking at your training for a year or longer, you really need to start factoring in a lot of different variables. And the reason I want to point this out is, so say you're using our one-man-one barbell program. That's great. Phenomenal program. It only costs $49. It has so much information. You'll be stuck with it, stuck in it for a year and a half if you really wanted to be. But after you kind of hit your peak there, it's time to move to something like Garage Gym Athlete Programming, where there's someone like me or another coach or another programmer behind it thinking about, okay, what are we doing this month that's going to affect 6 months from now? Really looking at our strength training, because you can't just do these continual linear periodization waves and have everyone see results. So just another thing to factor in your training.
So how would you go about changing from periodized to a different, I guess you go from a different periodized, like rewrite the script and start fresh of a different model, or how would you switch that up? Like
if I were to move away from linear periodization?
Yeah, or because you go from linear to, we say, undulated, but then back to linear, or like how? Or would it
that's
be...
typically what we do. So we'll go from straight linear periodization, where everyone understands what we're doing, and then we'll do something a little bit more undulating. That's still getting all the percentages, intensities that we need to hit in volume and intensity over, say, a 4-week time period. And so you can switch back and forth between those two, really, if you wanted to, and that works for a really long time.
Okay, yeah. So just for people thinking of like attacking their own strength programs, 12 to 16 weeks of linear periodization, and then throw in about 4 weeks of undulated, something different, and then go back to your periodization.
Yeah, and another thing that we do to really space things out is not just always trying to get stronger. It normally results in that, but we have over the last 6 months broken it down more into, we do a 4-week wave in most of the training cycles. Really, it's almost all of them at this point, where we'll do a 4-week wave where we're more focused on power production, and then we'll do another 4-week wave where we're more focused on hypertrophy, so muscle production, and then the last one just pure strength, so getting really high intensities, low repetitions, just to get more weight on the bar and to get those PRs for those who want them. And so power, strength, and hypertrophy is another way that we change our sets, reps, and intensities over the course of a 12-week cycle to make sure that, one, we're not getting stagnant, and two, we're building all the right strength in the different areas, because you grow more muscle, you're able to add more strength. If you're more powerful, aka faster, more dynamic, you can move more weight. And then if you're practice at the higher intensities, you're just going to get stronger, from your central nervous system being stimulated. So that's, long-winded answer of how we've been doing it more recently that we found really works with our athletes. Now, I think that's all I really got, man. I think periodization works, and if you aren't doing that to some degree, I would start doing it in your training. But the last point is that they did not find that it was more beneficial than just straight training hard. So training volume and intensity were more likely to determine your strength gains, was how you actually focused during your training session, I guess is what I'll say. So were you training at the right intensities? Were you training, did you get enough volume? All those things, those are probably the most important factors. But that almost goes without saying, right? It's like if I tell you to go run a mile and you're like, well, okay, I'll run a mile. Mile done. And the mile took you 14 minutes when you're capable of a 5-minute mile. That probably was no good, so you just have to have those parameters in place. Like training at certain level of intensities are going to elicit different gains no matter what type of training you're doing. Any questions about that?
No, I think that was pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So main takeaway is start doing some periodization if you're not already. It is very, very beneficial. Start with linear periodization, very easy to understand, very easy to program for starting out with programming. And if you're not doing that, you're just like, I guess the best example of not doing that would be just, like the 5x5, I'll add a little bit of weight, or bodybuilding type stuff. Like those ways are not ideal for gaining strength specifically. All right, man. Let's hop into topic of the week. EO3 Elements. Have you had a chance to look over these, man? This is new. This is brand new information here at Into 3 Fitness.
I think about these when I sleep.
Mm-hmm. All right, so here's the deal.
Speaking of, the first one.
Speaking of, so I'll break it down for everybody. We, in the Garage Gym Athlete app that we use, the very last part of the day, every day, is the recovery game. And I slowly developed this recovery game because I wanted athletes to start recovering better and focusing on the right things in their life to see results. You can call it selfish. I wanted our athletes to have the best results possible, so I forced them to start thinking more about their recovery. And every single thing I added was either from a lot of experience I had or a specific study that I had read or books that I had read on a specific topic. And so if there's one little bullet in there, there's a ton of reading, research, and experience that went into why it's there. Now, we just launched our Fuels course, and we introduced a new thing at Into 3 Fitness. We're kind of rebuilding our Into 3 Fitness curriculum for our coaching course. Some of it's going into the Fuels course right now, but the EO3 Elements is one of the biggest one. And the reason I think that the elements are so important is because we call them elements because they are the foundation for everything. If you want to get stronger, you want to lose weight, you want to gain muscle, you want to be better at work, you want to be a better husband, you want to be a better father, whatever it is, whatever role, I guarantee if you dial in as many of these elements, if not all of them, you're going to be a better human being at the end of it. So if I had to say, hey, there's one habit you need to pick up. It's actually 9 of them, but it's really one habit of going through the EO3 Elements checklist every single day. So let's get into it. Do you have it pulled up?
Yes.
All right, man. I'll let you run away with the first one.
Sleep.
Yes, and so and then it asks the question: did you get
7+ hours of sleep last night?
7+ hours of sleep? Very important. How much sleep you get? What would you say your average of sleep is right now?
Probably close to 8. Well, it was close to 8 until this new awesome sleep that I've been getting, or whatever the heck's going on, me waking up an hour early. But it's still usually it creeps close to 8.
Yeah, and sleep is really important. Also, and we already talked about it a little bit with the chili pad, making sure your room is cold, blacking out all lights and trying to get those 7+ hours every single night. If you're not a shift worker, go to bed early, wake up early, get the sleep that you need, and try to do that with the sun. When the sun comes up, you're up. When the sun goes down, you're going down, things like that. Especially in the summertime, it's pretty easy to do that.
You can change your phone settings too. At a certain time, it'll turn off all your blue lights, and it'll look like a warm tint is on your phone, but an hour before bed, that's how ours do it. At
Highly
7
recommend.
o'clock. Yeah.
I also throw on the blue blocker glasses, not gonna lie. If I'll be watching TV or doing anything else at night, I do have a pair of blue blockers. So limiting that blue light's very important. So dialing in sleep, maybe the most important one on here is sleep. I think it can really help you out and change you for the better. All right, next one is hydration plus mineral balance. We used to just say hydrate, but now we kind of have to throw in that mineral balance thing because overhydration. I'm not really worried about people overhydrating and dying. I want you to be optimal, right? And so the question is, did you consume 50 to 60% of your body weight in pounds and ounces of water today? So if I weigh 180 pounds, did you get 90 ounces of water today? And thinking about the mineral balance, so I wake up every morning, I have 32 ounces of water with 2 grams of sea salt and a lemon, trying to really focus on my electrolytes right off the start. I also drink, not every day, but maybe every other day. I'll have a specific electrolyte drink that I make that has magnesium. It has some potassium, no calcium, some potassium, and some sodium in there, just making sure that my minerals are really dialed in and my electrolytes are good to go. And that goes a long way. You'll notice yourself, like if you're trying to get a lot of water and you are just peeing constantly and it's a lot of pee and it's completely clear, that's at first a good sign if you're trying to catch up, but over time that means you don't have your mineral balance dialed in. You want it to be somewhere in between to where you're not taking a piss every 15 minutes. You might still pee frequently throughout the day. I'm not going to give anybody a number because that's like impossible to chase, but you want to keep as much of that water as you can. And if you're actually dehydrated, your body is trained to hold on to water because you're not giving it water frequently enough. So get in the habit of drinking water every single day. And that is number 2, man. How do you do on hydration?
Well, really good because, if I'm waking up twice a night peeing.
Yeah, you're peeing 3 times a night. That's
3 might be on the very higher end. All depends on the day.
Hey man, I heard 3. I gotta say 3.
I usually take magnesium right before bed though, because I heard that it can be better for your sleep.
Yeah, it's great, man. There are a lot of different ways to do that too. You can like put it on your skin with like a spray or a cream, or you can drink it. Lots of. What's your go-to method?
I just have 2 pills that I take.
Magnesium
from a pretty good company, from somewhat researched. And my first meal is usually right after slightly after I work out, and I usually always put pink Himalayan salt on it because I know I need salt to go with all the water that I've drank.
Perfect. Yeah, so just keeping the mineral balance in mind. Like, you don't have to go overboard with it. Like, what you're doing is perfect, and I think some people just kind of miss out on it sometimes. And the next number 3 of 9 is nutrition. So making sure we want you to strive to get 2 healthy meals in a day, and we are just going to make it simple. Meat plus veggies equals a healthy meal. And if you are a vegetarian for some reason, then it's going to be high protein plus vegetables. So whatever your plant protein you're consuming, get at least 2 meals with really high protein and a vegetable. That might be 2-in-1 for my vegans and vegetarians out there, but everyone else, good quality protein source, a lot of protein, and some vegetables. Would you normally hit 2 per day at least?
Meals, like good meals like that? Yeah.
Yeah, meat and vegetables specifically.
Typically, I'm actually only 2 meals a day because of my 8-hour window, and then like in between is like a shake and or some sort of snack. But my first meal is always a big scramble, and that's always, got plenty of everything.
The scramble, the famous scramble.
The epic scramble, yes.
Yeah.
I need to make a book just on scrambles.
Yeah, so that one's pretty simple for most people. So dial that in. Next, we have blood flow. This is number 4. And what we mean by blood flow is light aerobic work. So walk or jog for 10 minutes outside of your normal training. So this could be walking your dog. This could be going for a light bike ride after your training session is over. Walk in the morning. If you do phone calls a lot for work, maybe you can walk and do a phone call. And the key word is light aerobic training. You're not trying to get an extra workout. You normally really don't even have to change clothes. Depending on the weather, that'd be impossible to walk outside for 10 minutes in Texas and not come back drenched in sweat. But you might live somewhere nicer and you could do that. So
you might live in San Diego.
You may live in San Diego where that's a real thing. And the main reason here, guys, we already talked about this in previous podcast episodes, how that is like superior for recovery, right? We talked about, should you do cold exposure or should you just walk for 10 minutes or ride a bike? And the answer was do that. So we have that in there and something we think is really important.
Next is sun. Get you some D. That will be vitamin D.
Yes.
It's a little easier for me just because my gym is outside. So like half of my workout today I did in the sun, and yeah.
And so, yeah, I stack some of these things. I mentioned it on previous podcasts, but after my training is over, I take my shirt off if it's not already off, and I go ride very leisurely for 10 minutes on my bike.
Blind the neighbors.
Blind the neighbors with the reflection off my skin. So I'm getting vitamin D, and it's a very light bike ride, and it kind of acts as a cool down as well. So I kind of stack these things. If I'm just training outside, then I got the sun as well. And the real reason we're doing that, one, vitamin D, sun exposure, easiest way to get your vitamin D is through the sun as opposed to supplementation. Unless you live in like a place where that's not possible, go ahead and supplement. Studies are pretty solid on that as well. So get your vitamin D. It helps a lot with your immune system, which is going to help with your recovery, but also it's going to help with your performance. A lot of studies are coming out, and maybe we can cover them on vitamin D and its effects on strength gains, power output, all these other things. Vitamin D, having that dialed in, and a lot of people happen to be deficient. So that one's really important. I'm going to let you take the next one as well, and I want to know if you do these things.
So this is actually one that I probably, if on the list, I would struggle the most with. This might be it, kind of. Well, my digestion. So this next one is digestion, and while my gut health is probably great because I do concentrate on that, I have a problem chewing my food sometimes.
Right.
I am a very fast eater, and I might credit the Air Force to that. Military people in general can be really fast eaters, but yeah, chewing my food, I can, maybe I'm not so good at, but digestion in general, gut health is really important. That we've kind of touched on it in the past about inflammation and just eating the right stuff to keep your gut health right. Eating fermented foods is a really, really big thing to help your gut. I eat Brussels sprouts probably five times a week, and things like that. Cruciferous vegetables help your good gut bacteria feed, so that you have more good gut bacteria to produce and flush out everything and process what you need. Yeah,
and so without getting too complicated in the microbiome or anything like that, really simple. Smell your food when you're about to eat it. That actually kickstarts digestion, your saliva, and then chew your food at least 30, 35 times. And I really say it always depends on what you're eating, because if a soft cooked sweet potato might not need to be chewed 35 times. A piece of steak may need to be chewed 40 times depending on how you cooked it, So making sure that you're chewing your food, smelling your food, and not chugging 30, 40 ounces of water while you're eating your food. Let your body do the digestion itself. Try to limit, at least 10 minutes before, 10 minutes after any substantial liquid intake. And a lot of this, you're going to get more out of your food when it's digested properly. Your body will do a lot with whatever. Like, you're pretty healthy with eating very quickly, and your body's fine. Like, it's no big deal. But we're talking about how to be optimal, and that would be the next best step. Now, after that, we talk about meal timing. Now, we don't believe that you have to fast in order to, like a 16-hour fast. You have to do that to see results in your fitness. I really think it's dependent on who you are, but we do think that there should be at least a 12-hour break in your eating. So if you could stop eating at 7 p.m. and not eat again until at least 7 a.m., that's, in my opinion, fairly easy. If a 12-hour fast is hard for you, then I definitely think that you should do a 12-hour fast, because that means you have some issues. Mm-hmm. So do the fasting. We think that you should get at least a 12-hour break. Now, more advanced athletes, and when I say more advanced athlete, I'm talking about you train multiple times per day, really hard each time. I don't know if fasting's always a great strategy for those people. I'm not going to say it is or it isn't, but you just really have to know your body. Because one thing I see a lot with more advanced athletes is grossly undereating. Even like intermediate to advanced athletes is grossly undereating and not even realizing that. And it takes a long time, because you're so healthy, for that to show up anywhere. But you're not recovering as well as you could be. You're not performing as well as you could be, and you're not fueling your body properly. So if you're a more advanced athlete, be careful with the fasting. Don't try and do 16, 18-hour fasts, because you'll probably miss your window and not eat enough. So if you are going to try more aggressive fast, just make sure, and you're training a lot, make sure you're getting enough food in those time frames.
Liz has that issue, and for like for your fast, and that includes like cream in your coffee. So think about if you have something in your when you first wake up to break your fast, that's cream in coffee, sugar, whatever, a shake, anything like that. Then count back 12 hours from that moment and the night before, and just stop eating at that moment. So whether it means eating dinner earlier or no late night snack or anything like that, just stop.
Yeah, and I don't have like a hard cutoff time. I used to do that. I was like, okay, 7 to 11. That's it. That's my window. I do 12-hour minimums now. If I'm hungry after the 12-hour mark, I eat. If I'm not, then I'll push it out to 16 hours. Just because it really depends on what I'm doing. I have to be a little bit more flexible when my schedule gets really packed. So I also don't, like I said, I don't have a hard cutoff time. Like some nights I'll be done eating in all honesty at like 5:50 because, we ate early dinner. Maybe it's even 5:30. And so then that's 12 hours is different than, if I stop eating at 8 or 8:30. 8:30 would probably be the latest I'd ever eat anything, and probably would have had to been a crazy day. But yeah, I just normally take note. I was like, okay, is that the last thing you're going to eat today? Okay. And I kind of look at the watch and I'm like, okay, at least 12 hours from now. And I normally, like I said, 12 is always the minimum. I normally do push it to 14 to 16 at least. Yep. All right, next. I'll let you do next one and then I'll do the last one.
So warm up and cool down. So obviously you need to get, whenever you're training, especially a higher intensity while you're training or whatever you're doing, you need to get your body warmed up and heart rate up. Spoiler alert, new episode coming probably the following week to go more in depth about warm-ups if you need a little help there.
We've actually had that request. Yeah, a lot of people want to hear specifics on warm-ups, so we're going to do it.
Yeah. And then cool down. That means like when you're ending your workout, you're still sweating, you're still your heart rate's still up. You should probably do a 5-minute walk around. Maybe this is when you can actually do static stretching and stuff like that to down regulate your body. And you might be able to go into more specifics on that as in regards to like I can't think of it right now, but you know what I'm talking about.
Cortisol?
Yeah, those words.
Yeah. So. And that is the last one. So warm up, cool down, very important for a lot of the reasons Joe stated, reducing injury, accelerating recovery, and has a lot to do with blood flow as well. So that's why I kind of stack mine now that we've kind of unveiled them all. I consider my 10-minute after the training session over light bike ride with my shirt off, my blood flow, my vitamin D, so sun exposure, and then also my cool down. So it's really 3 in 1. So you don't have to necessarily pick up 9 different habits. You can stack these things and do them in different ways. Now, the last one is down regulation at the end of your day, or you can even do it at the end of the training, but I'd highly recommend getting into some sort of practice at the end of your day for down regulation. And it's, this can be meditation. You could get like the Headspace app. You can do some sort of breathing. Box breathing is something I really recommend right now. And we talked about limiting nighttime light exposure. So I've been reading a lot of books on circadian rhythm. That might be a topic coming up. But it's just, if you can get your training, your diet, and basically your life more in tune with your circadian rhythm, I really feel like you're going to be a lot healthier. And our circadian rhythm follows this natural peak and then, trough of cortisol. So our peak cortisol levels are shortly after we wake up, and then it's kind of a bell curve, comes down, and then towards the end of the day should be where we're ending out. The cortisol levels are low. So if you're doing anything towards the end of your day to shoot your cortisol levels up, like right before bed, whether that's training, whether that's something stressful, that's really bad. And I'm not going to really say anything else. That's just really bad. It's going to jack up your sleep. It jacks up your hormones. And you're not recovering as well. Your organs aren't doing what they need to do, at nighttime when you're sleeping. So trying to dump that cortisol as much as you can through some down regulation activities, getting the cortisol back in check right before you go to bed. Who knows, your cortisol levels might be high just because you have a stressful life, stressful job, something like that, and you're not doing anything crazy at the end of the day. So doing some sort of down regulation, breathing, meditation, not getting a ton of blue light, all these things are really good habits to get into and then down regulate. And that's all 9 of them. of EO3 Elements. If I was a smart person, I would have given you some way to download these things. I'll probably see the easiest way to do this before this episode is published. How about you go to the Garage Gym Athlete Instagram account? Are you doing the link in profile thing right now, Joe? Or do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so we will add... you can check both of us. So I'm at EO3_fit on Instagram. Garage Gym Athlete is at Garage Gym Athlete on Instagram. That's me and Joe tackling Instagram for you guys. But I'll put a link in my bio. Joe will do the same. We'll have EO3 Elements, a place for you to download it by the time this is published. So if you guys want just a copy to put on your phone and check out and review, go ahead and go to our Instagram accounts and check that out. And give us a follow while you're there if you haven't already. All right, man. Finishing things out, we have the workout coming up. 1,000. Do you love this workout, hate this workout, or somewhere in between? Have you done it?
Somewhere in between. No. Yes and no. I mean, I've done this sort of sequence, but I don't think I've done it for as long before.
Yeah, so it is 10 rounds or 30 minutes, whichever one comes first. So it's like a 30-minute time cap, 10 rounds of 25 pull-ups. And it says kipping, and the only reason I say kipping is because this would be like just completely impossible for most everyone if it wasn't kipping. But if you are not good with kipping, can't do it, don't want to do it, strict is perfectly fine. Just know you'll probably get time capped. So 25 pull-ups, 25 push-ups, 25 sit-ups, 25 squats. So 10 rounds of that, and you will have completed 1,000 repetitions. It is a challenging one to finish and under the time cap, but it's about as simple as it sounds. Do you have any strategies, techniques, tips, or anything for this workout?
Just like some of the other ones, break things up from the beginning. Pull-ups and push-ups especially. Like I'm talking 5s, even out of the 25s, because that little bit of rest is going to help you in the way longer run. And make up your time in the sit-ups and squats, because you're not going to be able, you won't really burn out on those. You can pretty much do, most people should be able to do 25 sit-ups and 25 squats unbroken for a very long amount of time. So make up your time there, and then don't even worry about like your heart rate because on those two, because when you get to pull-ups, you're going to do 5 and then you're going to drop down and then rest, shake it out a little bit, and then your heart rate's going to naturally come down during the other ones when you have to rest due to muscle fatigue.
Yeah, and so this is a high volume workout, and we put the time cap in there to really for safety parameter. So like don't go past the time cap. It's like some people are like, no, I'm going to tough it out and I'll do this for like 117 minutes. You know, it's like, how about you just do 30 minutes like we time capped for the reason that we time capped you? Because we don't want anybody doing too many repetitions, going beyond their ability and getting rhabdo or, you know, severe muscle soreness beyond what should be allowed, you know, not being able to train next week. We don't want any of that stuff. So we put the time cap in there because our more advanced athletes will finish, our less advanced athletes will get time capped, and that's okay. Everyone had a good workout in 30 minutes, and that's all we're really looking for. If you can finish, awesome. So Joe gave some pretty good tips. I won't double tap on those, but I'll say if you have something like a knee brace or, you know, like a reband, like I have those, like any sort of joint protection, you can wear those. It helps with something that has this many repetitions in it. I even wear them on Murph sometimes just because there's so many reps. It makes it take less of a toll on your joints when you're doing that many repetitions. But to be honest, if you're only doing the workout once, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal. But that's about the only tip I have. You know, chalk up and be safe. Time cap. Listen to the time cap. All right, man. Why? Should I say why? What is
why?
What? So all of our current athletes, I already told you the days until Fit Week and days until the new cycle. We'll be providing sample programming and also doing a webinar. We'll probably publish the webinar audio here if it makes sense on the new training cycles when we talk about them, provide everyone with sample programming. Not that far from now after this is published. But man, anyone who's not signed up, why should they sign up for a free trial?
Well, if we were talking about periodization, and undulating, all that kind of confuses you, then you got to sign up because guess what? We do it for you. It's done. Set it and forget it.
Exactly. That's my point to the whole programming thing. You can go learn it if you want. Go learn it. I'll teach it to you. Well, you'll learn about it on this podcast. Like, that's fine. But if you don't want to be the guy who changes his own oil for the rest of his life just for the sake of changing oil, hire an expert to do it for you. It's going to make your life a little bit easier. It's a nominal fee, all said and done, with how much we actually put into it. And guys,
nominal fee. And
we are really putting in like EO3 Elements, our athlete briefs, all these things, and something really cool. Here's a little teaser. This next cycle, I have why videos going in on top of the athlete briefs. What is a why video? Well, it explains why we've programmed what we programmed in 60 seconds or less, and kind of why that matters. We used to kind of do that in the athlete brief, but our coaches have kind of been sharing the love on the athlete briefs. So I've been doing some videos on just specific, what I'm calling why videos. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the why, it's not till this next training cycle kicks off. You'll start seeing them at the top of the programming, but you'll see why we programmed it. So you'll start understanding basically just as much as we do when it comes to programming. And I think I am really excited for it. Other than that, get in on the barbell giveaway, 5-star review, positive comment. It'll be announced in a few weeks. You got anything else, Joe?
No, if you're currently on our cycles, then when you're listening to this, it's week 11, and that means it's the last hard week and going into deload. So finish strong, and let's get to the next cycle.
Awesome. Peace. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.